Hello and welcome to this tutorial. I'm going to show you how to use the tattoo ink brush set to create a simple tattoo in less than a few minutes. So the first thing you do is send the brush set over to your iPad. If you're on a Mac, you can use AirDrop and it will automatically import itself into Procreate. Then you have a choice of lovely new brushes. We'll start off with Tattoo Line 1, which is really good for outlining your work. So I will show you. Whoop, it's a little bit big there. Bring it down to about 3 or 4%. And then start. Now we have a little heart shape. I'll just clean up the edge down here. Whoops, far too big. There we go. Make sure that's finished nicely. There we have it. And you can see, if you zoom in, you can see the pins, each individual needle stroke from this brush, really matching what a real tattoo gun would do. So now we have a heart shape, and you might want to add some shading to this. So one thing we can do is add a new layer and come into the tattoo brush shading and pick a nice shading, perhaps tattoo shading 1. And we're going to make sure this is at 100%. Start shading away. I've taken off the symmetrical assist here so we can have a feel for it ourselves. Basically, the idea here is just to start layering up shading. You can go over it a few times, adding the shading in where you want it, getting it quite heavy in places, and lightening up as it comes towards the center of your objects. And this way we'll have a nice shading coming across, and then after that you can obviously clean up the outlines. You can also use masks for this. I'll just quickly show you. That's not me farting, it's actually the sound of the glove on the glass. Just in case you were wondering, maybe this also was a little naughty popper. And then we have nicely shaded heart shape. And then the next step might be to add another layer. And actually we'll go back to this layer. I think what we want to do is add in some very light shading across the other side. So we can reduce the opacity a bit, increase the brush size, take that down just a little bit more. We're going to color in this whole tattoo with some very light shading to get a bit of a feel for the whole thing. You can just sort of work on it in bits you feel need a bit more work. And then maybe we'll come back to the rubber, take the opacity down a bit, and put a bit of a shine on here. Somewhere about there. Something like this. And then make sure we rub out where we've missed out the lines. Okay. Now the next step is that we're going to put a little banner across the front. These are very popular on these types of tattoos. So add a new layer again. We don't need this one to be symmetrical. And we'll come back to using the line. We'll show you with a different line brush this time, because each one has slightly different behaviors and gives you different effects and allow you to experiment with each of these. So we're going to come across here, twirl this in, then make sure that we're coming back around, twirling this one on the underside. And then we can come back into this layer and we will erase what we had there. So increase the brush size, take that all out. Nicely. Come to this one and erase here as well, because we don't need that line. And then the next step will be to add in a little bit of shading on this. We're going to show you a different shading technique. We're going to use the dot shading technique here, where we will come into this layer again. Actually, why not make a new layer? Always good to make more layers is what I've found. It gives you more opportunities to come back. And we're going to start layering up the dot shading here. If you want the dots to be more far apart, you can increase the brush size just a little bit. And here we can see we're already starting to get some nice depth of this coming in behind. And we can do exactly the same on the other side. Getting a little feel for this. Then we can come back and erase any bits. Oh, I've got a new message. Aren't I popular? Yes, I am. Very much? No, I'm not. It's probably my mum. And speaking of mother, I think why not write my dear mother on the front of this heart? So we'll take a line brush again and we'll try some hand lettering here. I'll go with the mom of America. It's not quite working, that O, is it? That one's okay. With mom. Actually add some little details to these letters because there's always a bit of flair to these fonts. I'm actually just going to redo the O that's not quite in the middle there. Just quickly rub him out and put him back in. Hopefully get him a bit better this time. How's that? Marginally better. Now we have mum in the middle of our tattoo. And we might want to leave it there for the moment.